Hello and good evening to everybody. First of all, I would like to thank Francesco because he gave us the chance to arrange this meeting in such a wonderful place. I hope also that the non-Napolitan guests will enjoy the town from here. And also I want to thank Francesco because he decided this year to split his good conference in two parts, reserving a whole afternoon to this meeting about such important items in shipping. And I had the chance to participate in just a little bit to the organization of this big event, which is the Shipping and the Law, and I dare say it's a very, very big effort. And I thank Francesco for all the passion he put into this organization and the kindness. Really, thank you, Francesco. And today we will speak about the very important items in the shipping of today. The shipping is facing a very delicate moment because the crisis, the global economic crisis, is not over yet. And in any way, despite this crisis in the last years, the volume of cargo transported by ships has grown. The only problem today is the large number of vessels present into the market, and this happened also because of the big and massive presence of the investment funds in recent shipping. And when there are too many vessels around, there are not the economic cycles of the shipping are not like ever before. So we suspect that there would be still a long period in which the daily rate will be softening again. And when the daily rate is low and the ship owners are struggling to find job for the vessels, the performance of the vessels appear as the key item in order to have your vessel more competitive, in order to award, to be awarded for for certain contracts. For performance, we first of all we have to say that there is more and more attention, more than ever before, because of course in the history of shipping always there was the great attention to the consumption of the vessels, but today even a single liter of bunker saved by the vessel appear to be as the key item to have a contract awarded. And we have also to match all this with the new regulations that will come in force regarding the environmental, the emissions and the environmental protection that will be enforced shortly. And the majority of the vessels in existing now, they are not prepared to face 100% these new regulations that will be applied. I have to say soon, because nowadays the time run up very fast. This means that the role of the ship owner has changed a lot in the last 20 years at least. Before we could see, the ship owner, which was, the owner of the company, often, sitting at its desk trying to draw himself the vessel of his life, trying to himself to put some modification on the project. This does not happen anymore. The projects are very similar one to another, and there are teams of very expert engineers and technicians working on this project in order to have the vessel as much competitive as possible. And now to be a ship owner now, it seems to me sometimes to be in a Formula One contest in which the time is very crucial, and each single liter of consumption play a very important role. But I want to say as well that now we will mention during this meeting the word eco because of the new technologies that are applied to the vessels, which are certainly very interesting. But this does not mean the existing vessels, which are the majority of the vessel, cannot have the same performance of the eco vessel. This will be and could be done with refitting of vessels, applying some technique that we will see today, like the reblading for the consumption, for example, or the slow steaming for the consumption as well as the scrubbers for environmental emissions, the paintings, silicone paintings, whatever. And so, I would say also, I want to point out one thing which can be very important for the following of this meeting. We probably we do not have to do a very sharp division between eco-type vessels and non-eco type vessels. I would call more the non-eco vessels as less eco, because all the technologies in shipping are gradual. And also, it's important to state that when someone buys a vessel, it's not like buying a car which remains with the same eco, performances throughout the life. But the ship is a big plant, is an important investment, and can always be upgraded throughout the life of the vessel itself. The problem and the very important thing that we can see today through a discussion between the technical side and shipowning side is whether this modification, the upgrading, is worthwhile for all the vessels, and to which vessels is more worthy than other vessels. I believe that this meeting, and with Alberto we talked a lot about that, is very important because it's one of the first meetings in which the ship owners will meet the technical engineers and the technical side in order to discuss together common items, which is always seen from very distant point of view. It will be very important today that the technicians will convince the ship owners about the feasibility of certain projects and upgrading on the vessels, and the ship owners will advise whether these technologies, upgrading, refitting, are sustainable or not on the chartering and economical side. So thank you very much. I pass now the word to Alberto, which can introduce more, lots better than me on the technical aspects.
Thank you very much, Andrea. Thanks a lot, Francesco, for giving us to the marine technicians the opportunity of being here discussing all together about the ship. I'm really happy to be here to bring the point of view of the other side of the shipping, the side of the technicians, the side of the seafarers, which I represent with the association Athena. And how can I say, it's really when we begin to design a ship, just to go a bit into technical details. A ship is always designed upon several variables depending on the time you begin the design. And a good design is always a compromise between these several variables, and you have to weight them in order to let them interact one with the other. Just to mention a sentence of another naval architect, a good friend of ours, a ship could be seen as a short blanket. If you warm up the shoulders, then you have your feet cold. It's always like this. So you will never have the perfect ship. We will always have good ships. I remember when I got my degree some 20 years ago, at that time the Eastern shipyards were not so deeply in the market like today. The ship designers were looking more to the economical construction than economical ship running. In that period, the hull shapes were different from now. There were hull with knuckles, sometimes arch chimes in the bilges, and we were not so much. We didn't look so much to the overall efficiency of the ship. Now all the things have changed completely, and there has been, for several reasons. First of all, an increase of the price of the fuel, and this is I think everybody knows. And also there has been a constant change in the regulations, especially from the environmental point of view. In a few years, we have seen coming into force regulation for reducing the pollution of the ships, both in the air and sea. So we have seen regulations for the NOx, regulation for the sulfur oxides, and also regulations for the ballast waters and so on. This kind of regulation changed somehow the way of designing the ships, but not so radically like happened in 2012 when came into force the regulations for limiting the CO2 emissions. The NOx, the SOx can be somehow controlled by devices, we will see, with scrubbers and so on. But what really is influencing now the ship is the CO2 emissions, because it goes into a process which looks at the whole efficiency of the ship. We have to remember the ship is not, don't have to see the ship like engine, propeller, hull, but it's a single piece. So if something works, the whole ship will work in the proper way. Just to give an idea on how these regulations are influencing the ship designing, let's think to the towing tank tests. Before 2012, the towing tank tests were just something between the designer and the shipyard. Now, since how can I say? Since the energy efficiency of the ship has to be certified, these towing tank tests have to be certified by the class, and also have to be. We need to certify also the propeller, the auxiliaries, and all the plans of board that needs to be run for navigation, for sailing. And if we see now, an eco ship can be somehow considered just like a new generation ship now, applying all these new regulations in terms of environmental emissions and applying all these new technologies. But what happens now for the old ships, for the existing ones? The existing ones also, obviously, a ship owner has the same problems in fuel consumption, has the same problems in emissions if going in some areas in the ICA zones. And so we're talking now, it's common now to talk about slow steaming, about reblading, retrofitting, and also applying scrubbers and so on. And all the efforts and studies in this regard are really important, also because we have to remember that with the regulations that are changing so faster and faster now, also an eco ship of today will be a ship that has to be retrofit in the future. So the study and all these efforts somehow must go on.